Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 335. Your weekly little get together, we talk about recent gaming news. I'm as always your host, Stephen Brown, and tonight we have to talk about the fact that the co creator of Sonic the Hedgehog has recently been arrested, PlayStation seemingly is going to be banning shovelware on its stores, and Bethesda responded to Mick Gordon. First, I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching here live at Twitch TV /GamePoints, or later at any myriad of video hosting platforms, be it YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, etc., feel free to join in the conversation with any questions, comments, concerns, etc. down below. Just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bust into the very first story. By the way, all links that I use will be provided down in the description below or over at our Discord server if you want to go by and take a look at that. First up, this is via CBS News, a rarely used source of information for this, but it fits for this one. Sonic the Hedgehog co-creator arrested for alleged insider trading. From Tokyo. The co-creator of classic video game series Sonic the Hedgehog has been arrested for alleged insider trading according to public prosecutors in Tokyo. Yuji Naka, the 57-year-old programmer known for making Sonic and other major titles at Japanese game firm Sega, was arrested on Friday with a prosecution document obtained by the AFP. His alleged misdeed took place nearly 3 years ago when Naka was an employee at Final Fantasy creator Square Enix, the Tokyo District Prosecutor's Office document said. Naka is accused of buying shares in another gaming company, Aiming, I believe is how you pronounce that, when he knew they were going to release a new title jointly developed by Square Enix. He purchased 100,000 shares in Aiming for 2.8 million yen January 2020, according to the document, and the new game was announced the following month. Prosecutors on Thursday arrested 2 other former Square Enix employees also for alleged insider trading linked to Aiming. Naka was not immediately reachable for comment. This is one of those weird man bites dog stories where you don't ever expect to see that headline pop up anywhere. I know I'm not necessarily using that specific phrase accurately, but I mean by, in this case, is of all the headlines you expect to see in gaming, Sonic the Hedgehog co-creator arrested is not one of them. I really have nothing much to add to this other than that it's a major industry figure getting like in legitimate trouble, not because they said something no on social media or because they had the wrong opinions on something. This is a legitimate crime, and you rarely see something like this in general, let alone something like this directly affecting our industry. He is a big name in gaming, albeit a little bit tarnished even before this mishap here. These allegations coming out. And keep in mind, they are important to note that there are allegations. We don't know for certain that this has happened yet or not. He is just being charged with the crime. That's why we have a court system to find out if he did it or not. However, if he did buy a bunch of shares in a company and then it immediately got gobbled up by the place he is currently working for, on its face, it certainly doesn't look good. Over the next few months, as this case develops, we will, of course, be revisiting it, but I do not expect this to be the last time we hear of this particular story involving Yuji Naka. Moving on to the next topic here. This one is via dex.exe, another site I've never used before. PlayStation banned shovelware in easy platinum games on the PlayStation Store. This is something that's been a long time coming, by the way. The PlayStation Store, and admittedly not only just them, but also like the Apple Store, the Switch Store, to a smaller extent the Microsoft Store, are all just wastelands of shovelware, and it really does it devalues the efficiency of finding anything on there. It causes massive bloat. It's a bitch and a half to navigate through. I don't bother visiting any of these stores anymore, which is something that none of these companies want to hear. So I'm finally glad to see at least one of them stepping up and going, hey, all this shovelware shit, all this stuff that you're making that you shat out in an afternoon and charge like $1 for so they can get an easy platinum, we're getting rid of it all. At least it seems to be so. More stores need to do this. I know that for a while that these places have been very reluctant to take action on this because they make money on it. They do. Every one of those $1 or $2 or $3 games that get sold, Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, Apple, gets a cut of that profit. So they are making money off it, but I think they suddenly realized that the the clusterfuck that are their online marketplaces have just become unnavigatable because of it, and they're finally doing something about it. To the article itself. PlayStation has sent out a dev letter to all of its developers noting that shovelware games that are reskinned, non-games, and games just made to give people a platinum trophy are going to either be shadow banned or delisted, with a chance of developers being banned and publishing any more games. An anonymous source sent us the following information that was included in the dev letter. In the letter, Sony PlayStation states. It's going to be a bit too, so forgive me. SIE strives to ensure that customers can search and discover the full breadth of experiences on PlayStation, and that its partners have a fair means of being discovered. When partners oversaturate or spam PlayStation Store with the TM mark in there, of course, with many variants of the same type of content, it can negatively impact both the customer and partner experience. And that's straight up true. I don't browse these stores anymore. I go looking for specific games, and then I call it a day. But I don't go looking for things that might be cool to play on here, because it's pointless. It's a waste of time. Back to the statement. When SIE reviews the content submitted to PlayStation Store products that have the following characteristics identified as spam or repetitive content. Products whose functionality and or assets are copied or are not meaningfully different from products already on published PlayStation Store, irrespective of publisher or record. So what would happen is that one developer would take the same assets they have like one of their games, switch them around a little bit, so rather than a baby chasing a clown, it would be a clown chasing a baby, and they would just call it a different game. So it seems like they're going to be going after that kind of thing. Also, they're going to be going after multiple concepts and proof variants published by individual partners that have duplicative functionally or experiences differentiated only by minor variances or functionality or assets. A made-up example. There could be a game called Catch the Ball. And then that developer goes, well, Catch the Ball, you get a platinum in 1 minute. It's like $2. For another $2, you can get Catch the Keys. And instead of a ball being tossed in the hand, it's a pair of keys in their hands. And then Catch the Baloney, and then it's them juggling a sausage. And they would release like 20 of these games in like a $10 bundle, and that's 20 platinum trophies. Kind of bullshit. I also have to wonder if this is deliberately being coincided with the release of PlayStation Stars, which is PlayStation trying to add a bit of social interactivity to getting trophies and little rewards for actually playing games and buying stuff on the PlayStation Network. I'd be willing to bet that now there is a potential financial incentive for Sony to do this. Now they're actually taking care of it. Don't think for 1 second they're doing it out of the kindness of their own heart. They're not. I'd be willing to bet PlayStation Stars is the reason why this is happening. Back to the statement from Sony. Where possible, partners should consider aggregating small, similar content experiences into a single product using an in-game commerce to expand or extend the experience. So, DLC. They don't want to get rid of it. They're just saying, rather than having 15 games, how about one game with 14 pieces of DLC? As an example, supplying different trophies for each project is not enough to differentiate content. If any of the devs break these things mentioned above, Sony PlayStation has said in the following letter about the actions in place. Content partners found to have breached the policy may be subject to the following enforcement actions. And there's a whole list of things that can happen, including content excluded from PlayStation Store merchandising, discoverability restricted, content does not feature in automatic merchandising placement, such as new releases, shadow banning, content delisted from the store, content not searchable, can only be accessed for a direct link, impact on the certification operation process, in other words, the rigmarole that a game has to go through to get okayed by Sony. They might go through future submissions going, yeah, you put out some shovelware, we need to take a closer look at this. That's how I read into that anyways. Content not permitted to proceed to publication until policy violations are rectified, review slot availability affected, meaning it's going to take longer to get certified. Content takedown, content removed from the PlayStation Store, PlayStation partner account suspended or terminated. That would be like one of the extreme side of things. Multiple rejections, takedowns may result in suspension or eventual termination of a PlayStation partner's account. Suspension limits the ability to submit and publish new content. Existing published content can remain on PlayStation Store if that content complies with SIA policies. And then finally, termination of an account results in the removal of all content from the PlayStation Store. So they start off light saying, hey, we might shadow ban it. We won't put it on new releases. And the more egregious that a developer is with it, the more they start ramping up the punishments, including not reviewing it for certification in time, getting you put back to the end of queues, all the way up to just taking down your games and then just terminating your relationship with Sony. I'd imagine it takes a lot to get to that point because Sony does get a cut of all this, remember. And as I said, the only reason why they're taking action now, in my opinion, is because of them trying to roll out PlayStation Stars. And this can affect that, especially when it comes to like the trophy gathering side of things. This is a long time coming, but once again, I want to remind people, Sony is not doing this for the benefit of you, the player. They're doing this for their own reasons. The reason why it was even allowed to continue on for as long as it has is because they were getting a cut of the profits. Now, it is more profitable for them to go against what their previous stance was, to actually take action to clean up the store. Awesome. I'm not necessarily going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm just not going to be praising Sony for something they should have done months, if not years ago, when it's very obvious the reason why they're doing it is for self-serving purposes. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this one specifically down below. Were you guys fine with just the bloat on PlayStation Network? I know that some of these games were selling for the cheap and easy platinums. But like I said, it just made actual good indie games impossible to find outside of word of mouth. You couldn't just stumble on them in the PlayStation Store. So I, for one, am glad to see this change happening. Just once again, let's not thank Sony for something they should have done a long time ago. I'm reminded of the old Chris Rock joke where he's mocking people about how they brag about taking care of their kids when taking care of their kids was their goddamn job to begin with. Why are you asking for praise when it should be something that you should be doing naturally? Up next is an update to a story we talked about last week. Last week, Doom composer Mick Gordon came out and essentially dropped a massive document outlining the allegations of abuse that he suffered at the hands of Marty Stratton, who was one of the producers, I believe, at Bethesda, specifically, under the Bethesda label, which in turn is owned by Microsoft. It was a huge document. I recommend you all go take a look at it. You can find it easily online or tune into the last show to find the links to it provided, where he brings the receipts. He has emails, conversations. It has like a glossary and a table of contents so you can find things easily. And after about a week or so of silence, Bethesda finally decided to respond to it in a tone-deaf way, as it were. This is from Bethesda's Twitter here, and they put up this statement. The recent post by Mick Gordon both mischaracterized and misrepresented the team at id Software, development of Doom Eternal, Marty Stratton, Chad Mosshire, with a one-sided and unjust account of an irreparable professional relationship. We are aware of the details and history in the matter and unequivocally support Marty, Chad, and the team at id Software. I swear I can talk. We reject the distortion of truth and selective presentation of incomplete facts. We stand ready with full, complete, documented evidence to disclose in an appropriate venue as needed. By the way, that's code for saying a courtroom. I would say that if they actually had something that definitively proved otherwise, they would be posting it here rather than just saying it. But their legal team is now 100% involved in this, like guaranteed to be at this point. So they are going to be playing their cards close to their chest, but that is what that means. We stand ready with a full and complete documented evidence to disclose in an appropriate venue as needed. Lawsuit. And I do expect one to be coming. The statements posted online have incited harassment and threats of violence against Marty, Chad, and the id Software team. Any threats or harassment directed toward members of our teams will be met with swift and appropriate action to protect their health and safety. Fuck you, Bethesda, for saying this. Because this is trying to imply that Mick Gordon is targeting Marty, Chad, and the id Software team with harassment when he goes out of his way to say this is not a call to harassment, don't go harassing these people. Furthermore, none of this would have been an issue if Marty Stratton himself didn't come out and make the original Reddit post just throwing Mick Gordon under the bus and then more or less leading him to get harassed. So fuck off with this oh woe is me bullshit that you're pulling here. We can all see it. And I think that's one of the main reasons why this statement went so poorly received. Back to the statement. We remain incredibly proud of its previous collaborations with Mick Gordon and ask that fans refrain from reaching conclusions based on his account, more importantly from attacking any individuals mentioned on either side, including Marty, Chad, or Mick. Once again, where was the statement when Marty Stratton fired off the original Reddit post? Fuck off. He did not lash out first here. Stratton did. And it took Gordon quite a while to reply. And once you take a look at how detailed his reply is, you can understand why. I can only imagine that thing took months to assemble. And I do recommend everyone go take a look at that. Bethesda would have just been better off not saying anything at all than this right here. And the internet was quick to condemn it. Rightfully so, in my opinion. Moving on, as we continue on through the news here, this is more of a vanity story because I love this franchise, this IP so much, and I just want a good game from it. Maybe one day we'll get a great game. Via Insider Gaming, rumor, a new AAA Alien game is in development. Now, Alien has had a very rough time of when it comes to video games. Most of them suck. During the entire history of Alien, I can only think of maybe 3 or 4 games that were good. Not even great, but good. Alien Isolation, an excellent, well, I don't want to say an excellent horror game. It had some severe pacing issues, but it was a good entry into it. The Alien vs. Predator beat 'em up in arcades. The Alien 3 gun game in arcades. And you can also maybe throw in Alien Infestation on the DS, which was a Metroidvania style Alien game, which was pretty entertaining at the time. Actually, I think I have a copy of that somewhere. But most Alien games suck. Let's be real here. The newest Alien vs. Predator game was bad, which sucks because the original AVP game from Bethesda was awesome. That's another Alien game. But once again, not an Alien game. It's an Alien vs. Predator game. I'm going off on a tangent now. But we all know about Colonial Marines. We know about how the Alien Fire Team is the newest one that's out right now. Kind of lackluster. Definitely budget. It's all right, but it's not great. This should be an IP that handles itself when it comes to video games. How can you fuck it up? And yet there's just a constant fucking up of this IP when it comes to video games, and I don't get it. But we're going to have some more chances coming up. And I am, as always, with the Alien franchise, cautiously optimistic about whenever it comes to these. To the article itself. I know that was a big preamble of me ranting and rambling, but I like the Alien movies. I like the early Alien movies, I should say, and I didn't think Prometheus was that bad. Anyways, to the article. Sources have provided documents and information under the condition of anonymity have shown that the new AAA Alien game is in development with a tentative holiday 2023 release. It's understood that the Alien title, currently believed under the codename Marathon, is currently being developed for current generations. Current generations. Well, I've used the same word. Current generation consoles with a AAA budget. Unfortunately, Insider Gaming wasn't able to verify the developer behind the project, but learned the game is slated to be survival horror and will take inspiration from franchises including Dead Space and Resident Evil. Like what I'm hearing so far, Alien works better as a survival horror with some action thrown in. Dead Space 2 is probably as action-y as you would want it to get as far as the action-horror ratio goes. But it is first and foremost more than an action movie, a horror movie. Alien and Aliens. Once you get past that point, it's anyone's guess. And the game needs to reflect that. Back to the article. The same source who provided the documentation and concept art of the Alien title also said the Alien Isolation sequel is either in development or is currently being pitched. The developer behind the game wasn't given, but presumably Creative Assembly could be working on the project. For now, Insider Gaming would like to report this title heavily under the rumor category until more corroboration or reports are provided. So important to note, this is a rumor. They have one source, and they're even in good on Insider Gaming for kind of saying, hey, this is pure rumor and speculation. We saw enough to run with it, but we want you to know that we have not been able to corroborate this other sources. Good on Insider Gaming. That is a good journalistic move. Please make a good Alien game. Alien Isolation was good, I should say. And I've rattled off a couple of good ones, but we haven't had the great one yet. Alien Isolation comes close. Pacing issues aside, but imagine an Alien game that kind of looked like Dead Space, that had that same atmosphere as Dead Space. And then, I can like taste it. But for every good Alien game we get a bad one. So as I said, cautiously optimistic that this is going to work out. Hopefully. While on the topic of the bad Alien games, we're going to go to some Gearbox news. Gearbox, of course, being the people who made Alien Colonial Marines, and we all know how much of a clusterfuck that was. Well, it seems like they're expanding ever so slightly by buying the Risk of Rain IP. Note, just the IP, not the developers behind Risk of Rain, but just the name and story to it, to their little Twitter post statement. After years of passionate publishing work on Risk of Rain 2, we have developed a deep love and respect for the IP. We are eager to prove ourselves worthy as custodians by continuing to bring the world-class content and ensuring a bright future for this genre-leading franchise. As for right now, we're working hard to bring Risk of Rain 2 Survivors of the Void DLC to consoles. We can't wait to share more details in a very special passion project that we're working on together with our great friends at Hoopu. It is a true love letter to the community. Once again, to reiterate, Gearbox did not buy Hoopu games. They just bought the name Risk of Rain. And I get why Hoopu might want to sell it. They've been working on Risk of Rain for quite a while now. They might be eager to move on to someone else. If they're not going to make another Risk of Rain again, sell it to a developer who might be doing it. I don't blame them at all for it. I am of mixed feelings with Gearbox. They have made some great bangers. First two Borderlands are excellent. Third one, not so much. I love Brothers in Arms. Hate Colonial Alien Marines. Battleborn is a game that I actually forgot about until just this second, and I think that was one of the last big things they did. So they are all over the place, and I don't know how I feel about this. I was never a big Risk of Rain fan to begin with, though, but I recognize its greatness. I understand it's a solid game. It just wasn't for me. So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't have too much of an opinion on this. But it is important to bring it up. If you love Risk of Rain, do you think this is a good move or not? Whenever something like this happens, you do get some positives. I know it's easy to be down on it, but Gearbox is a much bigger platform than Hoopu Games is, which is a little indie studio. Gearbox is a big publisher and developer now, so they can actually put a lot of resources into it. They take care of the marketing easier. They take care of shipping the game easier than a small team can. Conversely, you don't have the original dev team working on it anymore, which can cause a host of problems on itself. It was inevitable that the next game is going to be, well, different. Whoever is working on it now is going to put in their input on it as opposed to what Hoopu is. Unless Hoopu works on it as a client of Gearbox, I guess? I don't know. Either way, the Risk of Rain 2 is being transferred off now, or Risk of Rain, rather, as an IP is being transferred off to Gearbox. Very curious to see what Hoopu does next. Hapu? Don't know how you pronounce that. Very curious to see what they do next, though, because they did make a banger. It's just not for me. I saw this next story very briefly when I was dredging around online, and I thought it was important to bring up. It's very quick, but interesting to note about some potential upcoming games. Via Nosy Pixel, Ninja Gaiden and Dead Alive reboots are in the works. During Team Ninja's keynote at Korea G-Star Conference, they remarked upon various subject matters ranging from the design philosophy to their worldwide appeal. However, most noteworthy comments are at the end of the conference, when they reveal reboots for Dead or Alive and Ninja Gaiden are in the works. No specific details regarding these projects were stated. Dead or Alive, fighting game, Soul Calibur, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, etc. like that, but I'm not going to focus on that right now. I'm going to focus specifically on Ninja Gaiden, and the reason why is because we now live in a time where the Soulsborne game is revered, and you have a bunch of clones for it as well. Things like Neo, Mortal Shell, etc. And some of them are good, some of them are bad, but it's now an acceptable genre to have a brutally difficult game. Ninja Gaiden, from its early days on the old Nintendo, was always known for its crushing difficulty. And when they ended up kind of rebooting the franchise when the original Xbox came out way back when, if you go back to that game and play things like Ninja Gaiden Black, Ninja Gaiden Sigma, and everything, you can see the origins of the modern. What do we want to call this genre other than Soulsborne? Let's just call it Soulsborne for right now. We need to think of a new name for it though. You can see the origins of that genre being fomented. You can see them in there in that it's punishingly hard, but if you die, you know why you died. It's probably because you fucked up somewhere. You didn't dodge right. It sold the seeds to that, along with things like Kingsfield and everything like that before people start commenting. But this series has been noticeably quiet over the years. And it's very weird that a game that was somewhat influential in creating this new genre, the Elden Ring style game that everyone loves. It's not new, but it's now finally hit mainstream acceptance. Has just been quiet for a couple decades now. I think it's been a couple decades. So it makes sense that they're finally coming around to make a new one. And I'm eagerly anticipating what this could be. I'm assuming they're going to go the Soulsborne Neo-ish route with it, where the I don't know, stamina-based action game. We need a new genre, but it's also like trying to find out a name for Metroidvania, right? Yeah, we know what a Metroidvania is. We know a Soulsborne game is. Do we really need to improve on that? Whatever is coming, I'm kind of interested to see. Not so much for Dead or Alive game because it's a fighting game. They're not for me. I fully recognize that. But Ninja Gaiden, that Ninja Gaiden game might have potential if they go Soulsborne like with it. Next door here, we have a couple more I want to get to. We're going to get into more dry businessy stuff here. This is via CNBC. Amazon starts cutting jobs with layoffs hitting Alexa unit and cloud gaming division. Amazon on Tuesday began laying off employees in its corporate and tech workforce as CEO Andy Jassy steps up to rein in the costs. The company notified workers in several divisions, including Alexa and the Luna cloud gaming unit, that they were being let go, according to LinkedIn posts from Amazon employees who said they have been impacted. Amazon is aiming to eliminate 10,000 jobs, mostly in retail devices and human resources. The New York Times reported on Monday the number remains fluid because the cuts are being implemented by individual teams, according to the Times. This is going to be a reoccurring story. We've already mentioned layoffs multiple times over the past few weeks. The economy is spiraling into the shitter. And when that happens, companies make cuts. And when you have massive companies like Amazon or even Microsoft, definitely Google, as we've seen recently, when you have these companies that get their income from multiple areas, and the gaming part of it is a very small part of that part of that pie, expect the gaming sections to get heavily gutted. I'm about to sneeze. Give me 1 second. Never came. It will mid-sentence, though. This is just another round of layoffs you're going to be seeing hit the gaming industry. And it's going to start with the fat, quote unquote. There it is. Hold on. Told you, mid-sentence. It's going to start with the fat. And what I mean by that is the non-essential, the companies that have gaming as a non-essential product, to see if they can't dip their toe into it. Amazon, Microsoft to a degree, because Xbox, as much as it's a huge player in the ecosystem here, is a very small amount of what Microsoft actually makes. Google, Apple, things like that. They're going to start laying off their dev teams, their cloud gaming sectors, their tech that relates to gaming, because it's just not the focus of their business. In a couple more months to a couple more quarters, you're going to start seeing publishers and maybe even Sony and Nintendo laying people off as well. This is a prediction. Don't say I told you one thing if it doesn't come out to be true. This is just what I think is going to happen. In another couple months or couple quarters, you're going to see places like EA, Square, Activision. Activision might not be, well, they're going to, Activision's weird because of the Microsoft buyout. Ubisoft, etc. You're going to see them start laying off people. And that's when it's going to get real dicey in the gaming industry, because we're already at the point where the budgets for games are spiraling out of control, and you can sell 5, 6, 7 million copies of a game and not have it be profitable. And that's a problem. That's a problem during peak economic conditions. We're leaving that. So what you're going to see is a bunch of product, in my opinion, a bunch of games getting canceled, a reduced output of games. You're going to see more and more things getting rushed out the door. In fact, you can kind of see that right now over the past year and a half with what I've been dubbing the year of incompetence that has now stretched from 2021 into most of 2022, when it just feels like things are just getting released rushed. Doesn't it feel that way to you? The number of bugs seem higher than normal. The online issues seem more prevalent than they used to be. The features are more lacking than they once were. It feels like things are already getting cut, and they will get cut even more before the trend ends. This is just the beginning when it comes to layoffs, by the way. And I don't mean to sound doom and gloomy, but that is just the reality of the situation. So, of course, all the best goes out to those affected by this. I hope you guys land on your feet soon. But if you were in any gaming industry, I would highly suggest you start tuning up your resume. For in case the worst case scenario happens, you can be on your feet running. Because when layoff happens across multiple industries, the market gets flooded with people, and then it becomes a fight of the most attractive candidate. It's not going to be easy to find a job when you have thousands of other people gunning for the same job. That sucks, but that is the reality of the situation right now. One final story before we get into the other segments of the show. This is from Activision Blizzard's investment relations page. Blizzard Entertainment and NetEase are suspending gaming services in China. This is actually kind of big. Blizzard Entertainment Inc. announced today that it will be suspending most Blizzard game services in mainland China due to the expiration of current license agreements with NetEase on January 23rd, 2023. Any game that wants to deal business in China has to go through a Chinese company to do it. So they have to have a middleman to be able to release the stuff in China. And that middleman takes care of distribution. They get a cut of all the profits, of course. They also help censor things that are unfriendly to the Chinese government. And it seems that Blizzard's current contract with their gateway into China has come to an end, NetEase. This includes, by the way, the following games that are going to be have their services suspended. This includes World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Warcraft 3 Reforged, Overwatch, the StarCraft series, Diablo 3, Heroes of the Storm. Diablo Immortal co-development and publishers. Diablo Immortal's co-development and publishing is covered under a separate agreement between the two companies. So Diablo Immortal will still be allowed to run in mainland China. Blizzard had license agreements with NetEase since 2008, covering the publication of these Blizzard titles in China. The two parties have not reached a deal to renew the agreements that is consistent with Blizzard's operating principles and commitments to the players and employees, and the agreements are set to expire January 2023. Essentially, they probably, Blizzard wanted a bigger cut of the pie. NetEase wanted a bigger cut of the pie, and Blizzard said, well, fuck you, we just won't release our games in China. To which China don't care. They'll just pirate it. That's what they do. We will suspend new sales in the coming days, and Chinese players will be receiving details on how this will work soon. Upcoming releases of World of Warcraft, Dragonflight, Hearthstone, March of the Lich King, and Season 2 of Overwatch 2 will proceed later this year. In other words, they're just moving along. No issue on Blizzard's end when it comes to moving release dates. As much as I would love to see more and more companies disassociate themselves of China, this is not the first step of that. What this is Blizzard playing hardball, and they will eventually come to the table. There's too much money to be made in mainland China for them to ignore it. I wish they would, but they're not going to. So before you put on your USA hat, fuck you China stuff, realize that this is going to get resolved. They will find a way to get their games back into mainland China again, whether it's capitulating to NetEase or NetEase agreeing to a smaller cut. They will hash this out. Unfortunately, but it is going to happen, in my opinion. That does it for the news. We have one delay that I want to mention real quick. Dead Island 2. Delayed 12 short weeks, as they say it. 3 months, as I say it. Development is on the final straight now. New release date for Dead Island 2 will be April 28th, 2023. I appreciate that they mentioned that it's kind of ironic that it's getting delayed again. Dead Island, of course, being just a perennial delayed game. It was announced, I think, over a decade ago at this point, with that dude running on the boardwalk trailer slowly turning into a zombie. And it's been kind of just in a development hell for a long time. So seeing it get delayed yet again is kind of like, yeah, okay, what do we expect? 3 months isn't that bad. It's probably just enough to hammer out some polishing issues. I'm not that excited for Dead Island myself, but hey, I'd be happy just to see a game that's been long gestating finally come out so we could take a look at it and see if it was worth that dev time. My gut says no, but I never pray for a bad game. I just expect them. So yeah, that is now coming out April 28th, Dead Island 2. We have a few new releases I want to go over before we wrap things up here today. First up, Evil West comes on the PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, and Series X. A dark menace consumes the Old West. In solo or co-op, fight with style in the visceral, explosive combat against bloodthirsty monstrosities. Eradicate the vampire hordes with your lightning-fueled gauntlet and become a Wild West superhero. This is from Flying Wild Hog, the people that made Shadow Warrior. It is just a Weird West take, first-person shooter take on essentially with Shadow Warrior. It seems to me, anyways. I will be playing this tomorrow. And thank you very much to the PR team for providing me for that code. So if you want to come take a look at Evil West, drop by here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That would be Wednesday the 23rd. And I'll be playing a little bit of Evil West. Also out this week, Ship of Fools on the PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch. Ship of Fools is a seafaring cooperative roguelite. Set sail, man the canyons, and battle sea monsters through tempest seas of the archipelago. Are you fool enough to stop the aquapocalypse? Strong Don't Starve vibes from this. Not so much in the art style, but just in the way the gameplay looks. It's another survival game. If you love them, cool. If not, don't bother. Also coming out this week, Gungrave Gore on the PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, and Series X. Gungrave Gore is a stylish third-person action shooter by South Korean studio Iggy Mob, in which you take on the role of Grave, a gunslinger of resurrection and badass anti-hero of your dreams, mowing down tons of enemies in glory ballet of bullets. This IP has existed forever. I remember seeing Gungrave like 2 decades ago, back when I was actually still doing games and retail. I never played a single one of them. They never spoke to me at all. But hey, more power to you if you love this franchise. You got another one coming. And that does it for new releases. A little bit of a slow week this week. Next week, you have some insanity. Of course, being the end of new releases, that's also the end of the show as well. And this has been GamePoints episode 335. Thank you all for showing up. We do stream this show live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at twitch.tv/GamePoints. And if you like what you saw here, you know what every streamer wants. Likes, bits, follows, subs, shares, etc. There's a Discord you can join down below, as well as all these stories that I use today if you want to read them for yourself. You can follow myself on Twitter at CapitalistPig21. And, of course, there'll be periodic streaming throughout the week. This week being a holiday in the U.S., taking most of it off, but a lot of it will be happening next week again as we get back to normal. Anyways, thank you all for showing up. My nose is completely stuffed up, if you probably could tell after that sneeze, so I'm going to cut things off here. You all stay safe, take care, and I'll be seeing you.